Dead bodies will continue to be transformed into the flesh-eating ghouls.
Hi, I'm Suki Bill, and you're watching Pathophysiology of Living Dead. Now, before we get started, I just have one announcement to make. I said it in the last episode, but I'll say it again in this episode. I know, pimping the hell out of this site. What site is that? TheFearInside.com. Check it out. It's myself. It's Cutter from The Cut Up, thecutup.blogspot.com. It's Gray from the Dark Hours podcast, thedarkhours.net, and Derek from Dead Derek's Review. Now, all of our websites, I can't remember all the URLs, but you don't need all the URLs because you can go to thefearinside.com and find find everybody's material, find new stuff. So check out thefearinside.com. Okay, now moving on. We've talked about lymphocytes, right? Where they come from, how they mature, where they mature. But what are they really? How do they work? Or what's their purpose? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's start with a white blood cell or lymphocyte known as a B cell. Now, if you remember, B cells mature in the bone marrow. B for bone marrow, easy to remember. Well, B is actually for bursa fabricatus. That's the primary lymphoid organs in birds where they mature. But we're not talking about zombie birds. We're talking about zombie people, humans, zombie mortis or zombie vita. B cells are really cool because as they mature, they shuffle around their DNA and create these membrane-bound antibodies. Now, when most people think antibodies, they think free-floating antibodies, which is exactly how it sounds, free-floating. They float around free in the body. The membrane-bound antibody is exactly how it sounds too. It's attached to the membrane of the B cell. Antibody, basically, we'll get to these later too, but antibody basically it's a protein complex. It's 4 proteins bound together, and each protein has a variable portion, right? This little part at the end. This variable portion is what the B cells, the DNA shuffles around to create these different variable portions. There are literally 10,000 of these antibodies on each cell. Remember, these antibodies have variable portions, so this B cell may not be the same as this B cell. There are 10 billion combinations of these variable portions, but the end product is slightly less than this because before the B cells are released from the bone marrow, they are tested for autoreactivity. What does this mean? This means that if the B cell binds too closely to our own cells, the cells of our own body, that it will be the DNA will be reshuffled to create a new variable portion, or the cell will be deleted in a process called apoptosis. Now, once these B cells pass this test for autoreactivity, they will be sent out to see the secondary organs. The lifespan of the B cell is only a few days, unless it's activated by a pathogen. That we'll talk about in the next episode, which will be recorded within the next couple days. Moving on to our second set of lymphocytes, the T cell. T is for thymus, which makes up the majority of peripherally circulating lymphocytes. About 60 to 80% are T cells. Now, if you remember from the last episode, these are the lymphocytes that move out of the bone marrow as stem cells, and they move into the thymus, which is over the heart, where they develop through an elaborate 3-week process. We're not going to go into it. There are basically 2 types of T cells. The helper T cells, or T subscript H, or CD4 positive, and the cytotoxic T cells, or T subscript C, or CD8 positive. Now, what are these? Well, the helper T cell, their job is, well, to help. What do? They help mediate immune response. They send out these messengers, cytokines, that tell the immune system to, hey, amp up. You know, there's something going on, and you need to create more and proliferate more B cells.
Rescue 7, come in. This is dispatch. Do you copy over? discuss, send more paramedics.
They also assist in activating B cells, and again, we'll get into that in the next episode. They also help to activate B cells. Now, in most cases, B cells won't activate on their own. They need help from a helper T cell. I say in most cases, but we're going to put that aside. We'll talk about it later. They also help tell the body to send out more cytotoxic T cells. Now, cytotoxic T cells are the cells that they attack specifically virally infected cells or tumor cells and abnormal cells that have been infected. Now, there's a third population of lymphocytes that don't have any of the markers of B cells or T cells, and these are called natural killer cells or NK cells. They're actually part of the innate immune system, not the adaptive, but these work basically similar to cytotoxic T cells, where they specifically attack virally infected cells or cancer cells, tumor cells. They target those cells specifically and kill them. So how does this relate to the zombie? Well, a couple ways. If you remember, the B cells and T cells, as a matter of fact, are tested for autoreactivity before they can leave with the bone marrow or the thymus. And if they react too closely to the cells of our body, then they're deleted or rearranged. But basically, that combination is wiped out. So, I think that further supports the theory that the zombie-causing pathogen mimics or somehow is similar to the cells of our own body, where the B cells and the T cells won't attach to it. The antibodies won't be attracted to it, won't attach to it. They won't recognize it. Another way, and it's very possible this way, that maybe the pathogen targets B cells or T cells. HIV, it's a pretty well-known virus, targets helper T cells. And in its targeting of helper T cells, it's inhibiting the function of T cells. Remember, they're the alarm ringers. They tell your body that there's something going on. We need to send out more cytotoxic T cells and increase proliferation of B cells. And without helper T cells, there's nothing to tell your body this. So, that's another possible way. So in the next episode, we're going to talk about activation. What happens to these lymphocytes when they're activated. And it's going to pull all this information from the last couple episodes, in fact. It's going to pull it all together, and hopefully it's going to make sense. I think it will. I think you'll enjoy it. I hope. So, thank you for watching, and remember to stay spooky.
This program is a proud member of the Pennycult family. For more information and to view other cool shows, visit pennycult.com.